Hello there, welcome to the newspaper review here on TAF TV. Of course, this is where we analyze and dissect trending and catchy headlines every day. Of course, we look into the newspapers, the headlines that comes out daily. We get to discuss it with people and others outside. And this time we are, like I said before, we took it out to the streets to discuss on different newspaper stands in the streets of Port Harcourt. My name is Obed Jerry, your host for today, and you can also be a part of this program. Subscribe, turn on the notification button, follow us across all our social media handles so that when we drop videos like this, you get to see it. And whatever headline that draws your attention, you can also drop your comments on the comment section. All right, we'll be looking into three different newspaper dailies for today, being Thursday, 11th January 2024. We see at the top story here of the Vanguard newspaper, it reads, Zenith, Jaiz Bank MDs not arrested by EFCC. Details of the story is found on page 26 of the Vanguard newspaper. Stop using IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu's name for political interest. Details of the story is found on page 11. Soludo, Archbishop Okeke in war of words over flamboyant burial of priest's mother. Details of the story is found on page 25. We see at the banner story here, it reads, CBN sacks boards, management of Union Banks, Keystone, Polaris Banks. Details of the story is found on page 20. We see at the bottom story here reads, economic reforms, NECA analysts, experts align with World Bank on ease of inflation. Details of the story is found on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. Pastor seeks help after losing 5 children in Rivers boat mishap. This is of the story is found on page 6, and that's all we'll be taken on the Vanguard newspaper. Moving on to the Daily Sun newspaper, we see at the top story here reads, focus on restructuring Nigeria. Iwuanyanwu tax Tinubu. This is of the story is found on page 26. This is of the story found on page 28 of the Daily Sun newspaper. The banner story here, same banner story on almost all newspaper dailies for today. CBN kicks out 5 banks board. Sub-story under that reads, Union, Keystone, Polaris Bank affected. We see here on the side story reads, Southeast APC tackles Soludo, OT over suspension, arrest of traditional rulers. Details of the story is found on page 27 of the Daily Sun newspaper. Unilag, Professor Son record 5.00 CGPA. Sub-story on that reads, as varsity graduates 17,464 produces 340 first class at 54th convocation. A very interesting one. The son of the professor following the footsteps of the father. It's a good one. Details of the story is found on page 27 of the Daily Sun newspaper. Lastly, on the Daily Sun newspaper, we see here 5 family members, 6 others die in Rivers boat mishap, 14 rescued. A very sad one for the families of the bereaved. Details of the story is found on page 4. Lastly, we see here at the bottom story reads, Imo set for Uzodima's second term inauguration Monday. Details of the story is found on page 6 of the Daily Sun newspaper. All right, let's look also at the headlines that the Tide newspaper have to offer us. Okay, we see at the top story here reads, FG tackles pressure on foreign exchange. Details of the story is found on page 2 of the Tide newspaper. Tinubu sacks 4 NPA NIMAS directors. Details is found on page 16 of the Tide. Fubara promises to complete a Che Igbodo road. Details is found on page 16 of the Tide newspaper. Rivers begin 4 days Armed Forces Remembrance Celebration, January 12th. Now let's move to the Punch newspaper. We see at the bottom story here, Edu, EFCC quizzes top ministry officials. ICPC recovers 50 billion naira. Details of the story is found on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Naira plunges to 1,082 naira per dollar after CBN's $2 billion repayment. Details is found on page 20 of the Punch newspaper. Obasanjo's ex-minister Agunloye arraigned for $6 billion Mambila contract. We're just seeing stories of embezzlement of funds, alleged embezzlement of funds rather. I hope we learn our lessons and people do well to sit up and learn not to focus on embezzlement of funds, rather focus on doing the work that they were appointed or elected to do. All right, still on the newspaper, we see at the bottom, at the main story here reads, CBN sacks Union, Polaris, Keystone Banks boards. Sub-story under that reads, Modibo, over 25 bank chairmen, MDs, directors asked to resign. Interim board likely today. CBN warns against panic withdrawal. Details is found on page 17 of the Punch newspaper. We could see pictures of the chairman of different banks, the Polaris Bank, the Keystone Bank, Union Bank, and Keystone Bank also. The PR pictures here is embedded on this newspaper cover. We see at the side story reads, marketers to meet Dangote over fuel supply. This is found on page 20 of the Punch newspaper, and that's all we'll be taking for the newspaper dailies today. We'd like to get reactions from readers, onlookers, on about these headlines on the papers today. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
You see the headlines on the newspaper making rounds. What do you have to say on this headline that reads, CBN sacks Union, Polaris, Keystone Bank's board?
Well, it's a good revelation. If I be CBN, they should just do the right thing, the right time. This is New Year. If you know what is good, you do it. That I would have advised CBN, and should wipe away the negative people.
Okay, you're trying to say these persons, these plans that they did, this retrenchment of these staffs is a good one?
Yes, it's a good one. If you can see it, it's a good one. The CBN should go ahead, should do whatever thing you want to do. Thank you.
Okay, how sure are you that these persons that they would replace these MDs and managers with, that they will be efficient up to the standard or more than these ones that are retrenched at the moment?
Yes, those ones that have been there before, they are trying, but after now, let's see the change. Let's see another change.
Okay, let's try new people out.
Yes. Let's try new people out. Let's see what they will bring on themselves.
Okay, from another point of view, these persons that have been retrenched at the moment, there are people that are dependent on them, their families, their loved ones, people that they are sponsoring. They've lost their job and they will lose their financial source of income. What do you have to say about that?
Yes, you are right. But that's not the issue. Do the right thing, the right time. That's what I would say.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Welcome, sir. I would like your thoughts on this story on the Tide newspaper. Can tax Christians on obnoxious customs, vices in Rivers community?
Thank you so much. There are customs that will not help humanity, and it's not encouraged, especially custom that has nothing to do with scriptures. That is ungodly, that you cannot find it in the Bible. It's not encouraged for any person to involve in such custom. There are customs that encourages children to do what is not good, and it's not biblical for children to grow not respecting, not following the word of God. I think that is not good. That is what the custom can is doing. As I witnessed on 2nd day of January 2024, can organize a praise day. Can Eche chapter organize a praise day at Ebu Eche, where they gather all the Christians and others that are not Christians to see how to bring them together by introducing an award to encourage people to do much as they can do to affect humanity positively. By God's grace, I was one of the awardees during that program. And that encourages us to do more, and that is it.
Okay, do you think this, since CAN is a Christian organization, and do you think this focuses more on Christians than other religions?
No, not only on Christians. It has to also do with other religions. Encouraging, we are just advising people, communities, not to indulge in customs that will not help. As you can bear with me, there are some people, when someone lost his husband, it will look as if the person killed that husband. The wife will begin to go through hell. They introduce all kinds of things. Sometimes they keep the woman at home. She will not do anything. Sometimes they will order the woman to wear black. Sometimes they will order the woman not to eat certain foods. Sometimes they restrict the woman not to, do all kinds of things. It's not encouraging. There are also cultures, customs that initiate young ones, and when that is done, they assume when you are being initiated, you are now a man. Such customs, such cultures should be aborted, should be abolished. It's not good and it will not help humanity.
Like some persons would say, don't you think this is a form of eradicating our tradition that our fathers, most persons believe that these customs and traditions are norms that our forefathers have been doing before now? Don't you think it's like more like pushing our tradition and adopting foreign customs?
Thank you so much. There are tradition itself is not bad. Culture itself is not bad. Of course, you know that every community has a pattern of greeting. If you go to Goni, they have their pattern of respecting elders. It's a culture. We are known for that culture. You go to other communities, you go to Yoruba, they have their own pattern. But we are talking about customs that are evil. Customs that has nothing to do with imparting of humanity. Customs that the Bible is against of it. That is what we are talking about. Tradition and culture is not bad itself. But the evil ones, the one that has nothing to do with life, that will not impart life, that will not add to life, I think those customs should be abolished.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. All right, good morning.
Good morning.
On Vanguard newspaper today, this headline says, "Stop using IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu's name, for political interest." What you get to talk about this?
Most of our politicians use from the southeast use the IPOB platform as their own political gain. And when it comes to Nigeria, I think the only man that has been telling truth in the soil is just Nnamdi Kanu. Even our prophet of late, we discover our prophet and our pastors have been telling us lies. And the only man that I believe that's in this land that tells the truth now is Nnamdi Kanu. And that's the man they have dropped in the dunghill. Because most of the things he has said since 2015 has come to pass. And I see no reason why the court have discharged and acquitted him, and they still choose to, the executive arm of the government still choose to keep him, to remind him in the prison. So, well, I don't know what I will say much. What I know is that they should release that man. If for us they want to give us Biafra, they should give us Biafra. Because since I was born in Nigeria, I have been going to this inscription, there's up NEPA. Up till now, to my late age, they are still telling us up NEPA. That was in the 80s in Lagos. So up to now, we don't have light in Nigeria. And the only man has been, if anything will work in Nigeria, why is it that we cannot have light? You go to Ghana, you see light. For 1 week, 2 weeks, light will be there on there. But here in Nigeria, no light even for 1 day.
Okay, now, do you think if Nnamdi Kanu is being released, let's say Nnamdi Kanu is released even today, would there be any better, especially in the southeast region?
Yes, they will be better, because those that will die will die, those that will live. Because the only man that tells us the truth in the land is Nnamdi Kanu. Any other politicians, they are all there for their own personal interest.
Okay. So is there any way Nnamdi Kanu being detained at the moment is affecting the country?
Yes, it's really affecting the person, because there will be what they call restiveness of the youth in the southeast, which means investors cannot come in. If I choose to talk or make my connections down to China to bring in somebody from China, because of the restiveness of youth in the southeast, they will not choose to invest their money in the southeast.
And especially that sit at home that holds.
Especially the sit at homes and the unknown government that normally amounts from nowhere and start shooting sporadically where innocent people goes down.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, this is where we come to the end of the show for today. You saw the reactions of people and the analysis that they made. Whatever headline that comes that draws your attention, you can drop it in the comment section. Subscribe to our channel, turn on the notification button, follow us across all our social media platforms so that when we drop videos, you get to see it. I am Obed Jerry, your host for today, and this has been the newspaper review here on TAF TV. Thank you.